The snow fell like tiny shards of glass, cutting against his face as he shivered under a flickering streetlight. People passed him on Granville Street, their boots crunching against the ice, their scarves pulled high. No one looked at him. No one even slowed down. His name was James Carter, a Canadian Army veteran who once served overseas with pride. But tonight, he was just another homeless man wrapped in a torn jacket, trying to survive another night in downtown Vancouver. "Hey, buddy, move from the door," the café owner barked, stepping outside with a broom. "You're scaring off customers." James blinked slowly, his lips blue. "Just trying to stay warm," he whispered. "Well, try somewhere else," the man snapped, pushing snow toward him with the broom like he was sweeping away trash. "You people make this place look bad." The words cut deeper than the cold. James nodded weakly and struggled to stand, his legs stiff from hours of sitting in the frost. His gloves were soaked, his fingers numb. He took one step, then another, before his knees buckled. He fell to the ground with a heavy thud. People gasped, but no one helped. Phones came out. Someone even laughed. Then, a voice sliced through the crowd, firm, sharp, and female. "Are you all serious right now?" Heads turned. A young woman in a long red coat rushed forward, her breath forming clouds in the freezing air. She knelt beside James and placed her hand on his shoulder. "Sir, can you hear me?" she asked softly, pulling off her gloves and wrapping them around his hands. The café owner rolled his eyes. "He's fine. Just another one of those." "Don't finish that sentence," she snapped, glaring at him. "You should be ashamed." The man mumbled under his breath and disappeared inside. The woman turned back to James. "You're freezing," she whispered. "We need to get you somewhere warm. Can you stand?" James tried, but his legs trembled. I think I'm done," he muttered. Her eyes filled with tears. "No, you're not. Not tonight." She waved to a passing taxi, yelling, "Hey! Over here!" But the cab drove off. Another car passed. Another. No one stopped. James closed his eyes, his breathing slowing. "Please," she whispered, "don't close your eyes." She looked around desperately, until suddenly, headlights cut through the snow. A black SUV stopped in the middle of the street. The window rolled down. "Clara," a man's voice called. "What's going on?" It was her father, but what he did next would shock everyone. The SUV door swung open, and a tall man in a heavy winter coat stepped out. His name was Richard Hayes, owner of several popular cafés across British Columbia, including the one James had just been kicked out of. "Clara, what's going on?" he asked, his breath visible in the cold. His daughter stood protectively in front of James. "What's going on," she said sharply, "is that your café manager just threw a homeless veteran into the snow." Richard's face froze. "Wait, what?" She pointed at James, who was now barely conscious, trembling violently. "He served this country. And your staff treated him like dirt." Richard's heart dropped. For a moment, he looked around. The same people who'd ignored James were now watching from the sidewalk, whispering. The manager stood by the café window, face pale as the snow. "Call an ambulance," Richard said immediately, pulling out his phone. "No," Clara said, shaking her head. "He doesn't need a hospital right now, he needs warmth, food, and someone who cares." Richard hesitated. "Then, get him in the car." Clara helped James into the SUV, wrapping her coat around him as Richard turned up the heat. The silence inside was thick. James's voice was faint, but steady. Why are you helping me?" Clara smiled gently. "Because you deserve it." When they reached the café's head office, Clara guided James inside. The warmth hit his skin like fire. Richard ordered hot soup, blankets, and a chair near the heater. As James ate slowly, Richard asked softly, "You said you're a veteran?" James nodded. "Served in Afghanistan, came home to nothing. Lost my job, my apartment, my wife didn't wait for me." Clara's eyes glistened. Richard sighed deeply, guilt written all over his face. "No one deserves to be treated the way my manager treated you." The next morning, Richard did something no one expected. He called a staff meeting and made an announcement that would make headlines across Vancouver. He fired the manager, on the spot. Then, turning to James, he said, "If you'll let me, I'd like to offer you a job here. Not as charity, but because I think you'd make a great addition to our team." James stared in disbelief. His lips trembled. "A job? After all this?" Richard nodded. "And a place to stay until you get back on your feet. We can't change the world overnight, but we can start here." Tears rolled down James's cheeks. "Thank you," he whispered. "You don't know what this means." Clara smiled proudly. "Maybe we do." A week later, customers walked into the same café, the one where James had been humiliated, and saw him behind the counter, smiling in his new uniform. A small sign beside the register read, "In honor of those who served. We see you. We thank you." And right beneath it, handwritten in blue ink by Clara, "Kindness is the warmest thing you can wear." Outside, snow fell again, but this time, James didn't feel the cold. He finally felt seen.